everybody, this is Cindy Allen, Editor-in-Chief of Interior Design Magazine. I am very excited to chat today with Freeform. You all know them, the leading manufacturer of award-winning sustainable building materials and architectural hardware solutions for you, the A&D industry. And today, I'm talking about new product, innovation, and sustainability with the VP of Design and Marketing, Christian Darby. Hi, Christian.
Hi, how are you doing, Cindy?
Great. And the Director of Sustainability, Mike Johnson.
Hey, Cindy, how are you?
I'm great. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, we're doing well. Yeah.
Very well, thank you.
I mean, strange days, right?
I know. We're in definitely interesting and very strange times.
Yeah.
But you know, we miss you guys at NeoCon, right?
I know. We were so disappointed. We had everything planned and we were so excited. It's a show we love. Yeah. So you know, next year.
I know it's kind of impossible to wrap your head around as we're talking on Zoom that we're actually not going to have NeoCon because it's so ingrained in our history and in our industry.
Yeah, I mean, it is a strange, it's strange times. We were talking about it the other day, and we're seeing this cultural shift to this camera, right. Zoom connection. It's weird.
I know.
But we're still connected. We're all still connected. That's
great. We're definitely still connected. And the funny thing is that in some ways we'll be closer after this conversation than we actually will if we were on the NeoCon floor with 1 million people running around, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we get this little one-on-one time.
I know. Well, you do have some really, really exciting launches that are happening right now. So we're going to talk about that. So we're going to act like we're at NeoCon right now.
Perfect.
And so let's start with new product because the designers and architects, they're craving it.
Yeah.
And I know you have 2 introductions. Let's start with Fleck. Tell us about Fleck.
So Fleck has been about a 5-year process of innovation. Freeform has always been quite innovative in nature.
Absolutely.
And when we make our sheet materials, we always have a little bit of trim. We have to square everything up and clean it up. And it's been bothering us that trim material goes into our recycling stream. And we've just felt like and so about 5 years ago, we started with this process of figuring out what we could do with it. In short, we figured out that we can grind it up, and then we worked in collaboration with another company to develop an optical sorter. So it has a little eye in it. The chips run in front of that eye, and it can start to sort, and it can take out the material that we can recycle and the material that we can't recycle. As you know, with our Varia product, we have inner layers, textiles, organics, all these amazing materials.
Gorgeous.
They can't be and they can't be recycled. So we had to remove those and then get back that material that we could recycle. Once we did that, we took it and figured out, we played with a number of different ways on how we could use it. And we started putting it in our presses and creating little sample sheets. And then from there, we started getting it bigger and bigger. And we've created this amazing new material that takes 100% of our recycle stream and puts it back into a beautiful sheet. We call it Fleck.
Yeah, so how exciting is that when obviously there's a lot of development, right? A lot of product development. And as you said, years of it. But when you start getting closer, it must be really exciting. And Mike, since you're the sustainable guy, you're probably like, what are we doing with all this stuff that we're not using, right?
You know, I think one of the most exciting things to add to what Christian said, it's not only about taking what was formerly known as waste and turning it into a beautiful new process. It's also about reducing the amount of impact from the original source, right? Because to have trim, you have to have product to begin with. And that product has environmental impact built into it. So when we're able to reduce the size of our trim and therefore reduce the size of our initial inputs, we reduce the overall impact from the very get-go. So we're reducing impacts from the very beginning, and then all the way through the process, and all the way through the end. And that to me is really exciting. Yeah, we're netting impact reduction all the way along the way.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Super. And you know, we think about Freeform definitely as a design company. So you also know that whatever it is that you do, design has to be the end result. And this product is really, really exciting.
Yeah, there's no question, Cindy. Everything we do has to look beautiful. And so we can't take waste stream and sort of make it more waste stream. We have to figure out how do we upcycle it, make it more beautiful, make it appealing to this amazing design community that we serve.
Yeah, and so it looks like terrazzo, right? So you have
Yeah.
all these chips, right?
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about the process of how that works now.
Yeah. You know, it's funny, Cindy, that you
Oh, you
say
have some?
terrazzo. Yeah, I
Yeah.
have some. I'm gonna show you a little bag. But what's kind of fun about this is actually our working title was terrazzo. And we
Ah,
just could see like, okay, there's this beautiful tie, but we take all these little chips and you can see there, it's such an amazing random mix. And we figured out that as we run it through this optical sorting machine, it can start to sort. And I'm going to show you another
yeah, I
one.
want to see. I want to see.
So we started playing with like, okay, what happens if we sort to just blue?
Hmm,
So isn't that amazing? We sorted to blue,
gorgeous.
and then we said, okay, what if we just sort to red? And then we took that red and we started putting it in
Oh my
material.
goodness,
Isn't
that's
that amazing?
gorgeous. Put it
And
all
then
the way up. Put it all
yeah,
the way up. Yeah. Wow. Gorgeous.
isn't that amazing? And then
Yeah,
we
gorgeous.
started playing with like, I'm going to switch them out. So we said, okay, what happens if we put 10% of the Fleck color with the clear? And then here you can see like 25%.
There's
So we
more.
started
Yeah.
kind of, yeah, it's 100% recycled Fleck, but we can control the amount of clear versus the amount of color.
Is that something that's an option for designer?
Well, here's what happened. We started to see that, okay, for us to sort this, we sort in this blue. I'm going to hold it up close. See, it's all just amazing tones of blue.
Gorgeous.
We figured
Gorgeous.
out that we sorted 1 ton of material and we got enough material to make 2 sheets of blue.
Hmm,
So we started seeing
I see.
if a designer comes and says, I want orange, okay, it might take us 3 months to sort enough to find the right amount of orange. What we put in is what we can get out. And so from there, we said, well, 3form has this amazing color system, 250 colors in our system that we can start to apply. And what happens if we start to apply color to a more neutral Fleck?
Right.
Isn't that amazing? There's a little pink and there's a little blue. So then it gives us total control over the color.
And then is that how the word Fleck kind of came to be then?
Yeah, because we're kind of, it's that moving from terrazzo. We knew we couldn't call it terrazzo because it would just be confusing.
Right.
But you start looking at Fleck and you're like, we're taking all these amazing Fleck that has this history of 3form. Some of it may come from a Beargrass organic, some of it may come from a linen textile, and we're taking all these little Flecks and putting it into a new sheet, and then we control the color through our system.
So Mike, tell us on the sustainability front, kind of explain the pros to all of this.
Yes, Cindy, that's a great question. I'm going to sum it up with one quick statement, and that is optimized EPDs. I don't know if you've heard about this yet, but this is entirely exciting. It essentially means we were able to take where we started from, which was great already. We started with 40% recycled content way back 16 years ago.
Right.
And today we're able to have a hugely increased recycled content from a closed loop source, go back and restudy our Varia product, come back out with an optimized EPD based partially on the savings we just spoke about. So it's literally a win-win-win. It's a win across our primary platform, our flagship product, all the way down to this new specialized product. And you know, it's just a really exciting time from product development when we can talk openly and actively about pursuing regenerative and restorative products. That's exciting.
Yeah, it's really exciting. And the palette is so beautiful. Actually, the palette that you're showing is so beautiful.
Sure.
And then I also saw it in, are you developing these screens or is that a sample? I see these beautiful sort of divider screens.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we are. We're absolutely. So we have this amazing collection of hardware systems. One of those is Il-20, and that's this screen a hardware system that allows us to put these beautiful panels into the hardware system and then now go crazy. Now the designers really can leverage that. You know, one of the things, Cindy, that Mike said is when Mike tells me win, 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 and we can add win from design, it's like,
Yes.
how do you go wrong, right? Because we're winning on Mike's side, but we're also winning on that design side, and it's just really amazing.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Well, you got to make Mike happy. I can tell already. We need to make him happy.
Mike's
very,
pretty
very
easy.
wise. Very, very wise, Cindy. You're quick.
Mike's great to work with, but when we make him happy, everybody's happy.
I can see that. And then
It's
I
a lot
love,
happier place.
yeah. And then I love that the other collection actually is very tied to this. So sort of explain where one stops and the other starts.
Yeah, that's such a good question. So you can imagine if I take this original sort and you can see all the kind of fun little different pieces in that, when we go through the optical sorter and we sort to what we need, this really beautiful curated color span that we need for Fleck, there's a lot of material that we sort out that can be recycled that we're not using in Fleck. And what we started
percentage
to
is that? Sorry, what percentage is that?
yeah, we can recapture about 50% of it that can be used for Fleck, and then there's about 50. Well, there's probably 5% that, and again I'm guessing, but there's probably about 5% that is like the textiles and the organics that we don't recycle. So those go out, and then there's about 40% that we can capture and say, okay, we're not using it in Fleck, but we can use it in some of these other products. So one of those products is if we can get to a beautiful white, a really beautiful matte white, and then we can also take all the mix of colors and get this really kind of interesting dark gray color, and we add a little bit of dye to it to get this really uniform matte black. Now we have this amazing material that we can start to use in other ways. One of those ways is additive manufacturing. So we are using additive manufacturing to print lights for our light art sister company. And it's been just a fun, amazing process. We're also using it in an additive manufacturing process in some of our hardware for 3form. So that's something we're exploring and discovering right now.
Okay, so that's the other thing. So, all right. So now you created Fleck, really excited. Yeah. But you still have some stuff here over on the side and you're like, come on now, we can do, like, it's sort of kind of, once you open up that door to be really creative and do good for the planet, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you created another amazing collection. And Mike, what did you think about that one?
Well, I wanted to add again because Christian did such a great job, but one thing that's absolutely critical to also know is one of the major problems we have in recycling, especially in our industry, is everybody now is so rightfully concerned about the health of the ingredients that go in. When you take a mixed recycling stream, which is commonly available out there, you have no control over the contamination of that recycled stream. We have total control. We know what comes into us. We maintain control of our strep, and then we come back and we have control going into what goes into it next. So we can essentially certify these materials are red list free all the way through the entire process because we own the process. Right. It's ours. And that to me is amazing, you know. And I love that you said we're kind of doing the earth a favor. You know, I think it's interesting because really what we're finally ending up doing is we're able to mimic what the planet does. The planet wastes nothing, zero waste.
I love that.
The planet abhors waste. We're emulating that. We're getting better. We're gonna get even better than we already have.
I love that. So let's not forget. So it's called the Coil Collection, right?
Yeah, and that's right.
We love our friends at Light Art.
Oh yeah,
they're in Seattle, right?
They are, yeah.
They're in Seattle. Such good friends. I made a light once there in their factory.
Oh yeah, that's pretty fun.
Warmed it up and molded it. Yeah, such good folks. But by the way, this collection is gorgeous. It is so gorgeous. They look like sculptures. The idea of the mat is very, very exciting to me. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how this product was developed?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, you know, it all started with the material. And really, when you think about 3form and Light Art and our family of brands, our vision for material is this. It's can we not get to a place where we have zero waste, where we have 100% closed loop manufacturing? And so once we had this beautiful base material, the other side of the Fleck, then we started experimenting and starting to play with shape and form, texture, matte, gloss. And if you could see the working, the design table at Light Art, you would see dozens and dozens of experiments. What does the scale look like? What's the right form factor? How big, how small, then the finish. So we got to this place and we started, of course, Ryan Smith driving all of it from Light Art,
Yeah, he's
started
fantastic.
playing. Oh, he's
Yeah,
amazing.
Ryan.
Yeah, he's just amazing. And so he and his team started playing with what is the right form. They experimented, then they started, as we all do in design, started editing down to these are the right form factors. One of the things I love about the Coil Collection is they look like ceramic to me.
They look like ceramics.
Isn't
exactly
it amazing?
like ceramics.
So we've taken this material that was once waste, we've put it back in, closed the loop, and then created this beautiful ceramic-like light fixture with all the modern technology that can come with LED and the electronics and the controlling it. I know they moved to a more eco-friendly cabling and wiring and cording system. So all of it has been considered to get this amazing finished product.
You know what I love? I love that that it looks like ceramics. A lot of times when something kind of looks like something else, the thing that's something else is usually the problem. But you know what I mean? It's like the other version of it but this is something else that's also really, really good for the environment. And it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
That's right. I want to add on to what Christian just said there, just to clarify, when he says environmentally responsible cabling, Light Art, through this aligned effort that we have, this vision that we have, we were the first lighting manufacturer to actually go outsource and create PVC-free cabling because it's just so important. So we're leading the charge, and believe me, it's been an effort. We've had our setbacks, but we continue to lead that charge. We also led TGIC-free powder coating in our fixtures. We're looking at high efficiency lighting. So everything that we're doing, we're really looking at it through a full lens across the Reform family of companies to make sure we're doing things really, really properly and beautifully and functionally.
Which one was the real problem child of those that you were just mentioning?
Oh, the problem children, you mean? There's so many problem children. I'll be honest with you. One of the hardest things that we do, and most manufacturers face today, is really trying to get full and accurate ingredient information from the worldwide supply chain that shifts all the time.
Right.
So getting to that net result where we can say, yes, this is red list free, and yes, we control it, and yes, we can trust it. That's not easy. But there's other problem children along the way, like switching to that PVC cabling.
Yeah.
That requires UL rating, right? So we have to go back and get all those UL rated again and check to make sure they're going to be safe. And then we have to make the supply occur and so on and so forth. It's an uphill battle, but it's a worthwhile one.
Yeah, definitely. And so we're talking a lot about sustainability, which is fantastic. Yeah. Mike, tell us about the bigger initiative that you all are calling Align.
And then joined with EFI, and what we quickly realized is that through no ill intent, we came at sustainability from 3 different angles and 3 different levels. And so we really needed to encompass all the companies and all of the employees' efforts into one focus. So that focus is really with 3 pillars. It's people, it's product, and it's planet. We have to look out for all 3, because if we miss any of those marks, we're either not going to be profitable or functional. And if we miss people and planet, well, what's the point, right?
Right.
We're in troubling times, as you know. Sustainability is more important than ever. So we have really put so much effort in all of our history, but now more than ever, into sustainably sourced and developed and managed materials.
So the three P's, and it's something that you all are taking very, very seriously.
Absolutely. I mean, people, product, and planet. You really can't operate responsibly in the world as a manufacturer without considering all 3. And I could go into an hour-long dissertation on what exactly we're doing, but I think I can sum it up pretty quickly for you. And I can sum it up by saying that right now, as I speak to you, unexpectedly 2 weeks ago when we were talking about this, we're literally in the perfect storm from a sustainability standpoint. We have a pandemic, which is going to make us think very carefully about how we go back and how we design workplaces. We have now climate change accelerating at an ever accelerating pace without controls on it. And now we have obvious social inequities around the world. So sustainability really has to take all three of those very seriously into focus, look to the future and say, how can we not only stop the damage that is necessary by operations? There's going to be impact from our operations. However, if we're serious about it, we measure it, we validate it, then we can reduce it, then we can do what's called hand printing. Hand printing allows us to overcome those and eventually, hopefully in the very near future, become manufacturers of net positive products. That means that when we manufacture something, the earth is left in better condition, people are healthier, we know we've done a great job, and we've got a beautiful product line. So that's it. I mean, there's an exciting future, and it's cool to be on a team that is so on board with all of it.
You know, one thing that occurs to me as you're talking about it is that, you know, how much the architects and the designers really care about this. So one thing is to continue to educate them, right? And then also to empower them to make the right decisions.
Yeah. Cindy, it's so funny that you mentioned that because just less than an hour ago, I got off yet another virtual CEU. And one of the things I'm very passionate about is education. So for the past 6 years, a huge amount of my time has been spent going around and talking to architects, designers, students, contractors, all about sustainability. How can we advance this cause? But how can we also do it in a way that's scientifically valid, measurable, and verifiable? And those three things are really critical. We don't ever want to go back to the greenwashing days of the early 2000s. That was a nightmare, right?
Oh boy, I remember those days well.
Yeah.
We're like, we can't be the judge and jury of all this, you know. It was just very complicated for us as editors too, to know what anybody was talking about it really meant, and it was crazy.
I'm sure.
Absolutely.
I'm sure.
Yeah, so
you know, I was gonna say, now we're looking at ways to make sure that we can not only communicate that, educate our folks and our employees as well. We want our own employees to be very active in sustainability. And we're teaching them how. We have a green week every single year. We're going into our 17th annual green week this year. So we've been doing just a tremendous amount of education and outreach. But when you get something in your hands that's like Fleck or like Coil or even our biophilic interlayers, it connects you back to nature. It lets you know, it makes you remember what's really important that's beyond the office environment. And then when you can look at the certifications behind that, you can feel really good about products that you're buying. And I hope and believe, and I challenge all manufacturers to come on board with us.
yes, I would imagine that as a company, all of these initiatives are really, because you're making so many things that it really brings everybody together, and so the message becomes that much stronger.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Cindy, when Mike talks about Green Week, once a year we have a whole week where we focus as a company on all these initiatives, and we learn. We bring in speakers that help us understand what's happening in this industry as well as in other industries. So it's a really nice opportunity, and then it helps us become an example to the industry on how we think material manufacturing and product manufacturing should look in the future.
And so can I ask you, I know you probably don't want to tell me, but like, so you have these two big initiatives.
Yeah.
I feel terrible that I can't see it in person. I cannot wait to feel Coil.
Yeah.
Can't wait to feel.
Oh, it's amazing.
Right. But what happens what happens after that? Are other things in the works right now that I'm sure you can't tell me?
Yeah, of course. But then we'll have to, have another conversation.
Kill me.
But yeah, but honestly, we think that Fleck is the beginning of this path for us. It's not the end of the path. And we really see all material manufacturing needs to fit into this closed loop world. And so for us, it's the beginning. We're working on, right now, we kind of have this working title of Fleck 2.0. It won't look like Fleck, but we're taking the process and applying it to another new material. And then, as I mentioned before, Coil is the beginning of the other side of that material sorting process. And at Freeform, we're starting to use that material for some of our hardware applications. And we're starting to see, hey, it can be a beautiful light, but it could also be a beautiful piece of hardware for us. So it's really the beginning, and we think we're on an exciting path.
Can I tell you something? I typically don't ask that question. And
Yeah.
I asked that question because I was excited, because you could see that it's the jumping off point
It
to
is.
so many other things.
Yeah, there's no question. It's the start.
Yeah.
And it's a start that took us, you know, the start happened 5 years ago. And now we're at the public start, the start that
Right.
we can all see and we can share this vision of closed loop manufacturing, and how not only can we do it, which is a pretty big accomplishment, but we can also make it look beautiful. It's beautifully designed. It has design intent into it. And that's so important, because if it doesn't look beautiful, then where are we?
Exactly. Well, I am positive that the architects and designers, the whole community, is going to be really, really behind you, really excited about it. Hey, wanting to specify it for sure, because
Yeah,
they're going to love it. At the end of the day, designers have to love it, and they are. And
for sure.
I don't know, I am feeling very aligned with you, Christian and Mike, and Freeform, because of their beautiful products that are nourishing the planet. So a big hug, virtual hug to all of you. And I wish I could be in front of you for NeoCon, but we'll have to catch up in 2021, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Sounds
Well,
good to
thank you,
us.
Sydney. That's so nice of you. That's encouraging, and we're excited. And again, I think Mike and I both wish we were at NeoCon and we
I
were in
know.
front of one another. But you know, we'll look to the future. It'll be fun.
Exactly. We'll always remember that we had this Zoom time together with Freeform, right, guys?
Yeah, absolutely.
In the building of a better future at that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
no
Good.
question.
Thank you
Take
so
care.
much.
Thank you,
Take
Cindy.
care. You guys were amazing.
Oh,
Thanks.
thank
you
you.
very much.
It was so
Good
fun.
energy out to the world. Good energy out to the
Amen.
world.
Absolutely.
Here, here.
All right.
The smartphone. How did we ever live without it? And now it has become a powerful tool for all you designers and architects. Interior Design is excited to introduce Launch, a new feature right inside the magazine that's built around the smartphone. Launch allows for the speed and efficiency of a digital platform while providing the inspiration and curation of a magazine. So you may ask, well, how does it work? Just point your phone at a launch code and it will activate a powerful, intuitive user interface. One in which you can instantly select from multiple actions, all at the touch of a button. Do you want to, say, download a spec sheet? How about contact a rep? Or just get a sample? Launch will help you discover the newest products in the market and easily take action. Now, keep your eye out for it. We are loving Launch.
Hello, I'm Helene Oberman, Managing Director of Interior Design. With the imminent return to work post-pandemic, there are a myriad of questions and concerns that arise, ranging from the overall design of the physical space to the emotional and psychological well-being of its inhabitants, all with the mindset to create a safer, healthier, and more resilient arrival back to the office. Today, I have Joe Connell, Principal of Perkins & Will, and Mindy O'Gara, Director of Product and Learning Experience of Interface, who will discuss the considerations and impact on space and people in the now, the near, and the next.
No worries.
They will share their insights on how they are developing innovative solutions to the challenges both their clients and their own firms are facing as they prepare the return to work. So welcome, and thank you both so much for being here. I know the idea of this return to work is at the forefront of everyone's minds right now, but certainly before we come up with a solution, we first need to identify the problem, correct? So the issues surrounding the return to the workplace may obviously be different from those going back to school, which is also a very important environment out there. How are you both going about pinpointing these challenges for you, your firms, and of course for your clients? Joe, Mindy, anyone want to jump in?
I'll jump in. Of course, we started to see as soon as the pandemic, actually, as soon as the exits from the workplace happened, the calls started to happen about what return might look like. That's because everyone, like all of us, were glued to the TV and to the media trying to find out what's it mean, what do these numbers mean, what is flattening the curve, what does it mean about a recurrence of a pandemic, what does it all mean, and how do design professionals and how is the industry starting to tackle in some return, what does that look like? And then frankly, even more immediately was, what does the now look like? How do we take care of people that are not in their workplaces but have to work? So lots of adjusting, of course, and we're still doing that, right? We're not in our workplaces right now. So when we talk about the now, we had to first just make sure, like, do people have the tools, technology, the variety, the ergonomics? Do they have the tools they need to be somewhat effective in the now? And then immediately, once that's taken care of, then what does next look like? And that, as you mentioned, that Helene, that's different for every state, municipality, and industry. Some people have decided to set up temporary offsite locations. Some have started to take very conservative approaches. We've all been aware of the tech companies that say, you know what, we'll just take the year off from trying to go back to the workplace, take the pressure off, because there's so many variables. Well, a lot of us on the A&D side are actually working on trying to look at what the roadmap to return to the workplace looks like. So we've created a pretty robust tool that we update every week, but really trying to look at those issues about how we can accommodate the tasks safely, dealing with the really three variables getting back to the office. One is the issue of the physical adaptations that may need to occur, including distancing. The other is maintenance, and the last is behavior. Behavior is the toughest one, and that's one that we're facing differently for each client, but it's one that's certainly on the minds as we are all doing our planning.
So I know within the design industry as a whole, we've been speaking about sort of the importance of health and wellness. Actually, for many years now, it's sort of been at the forefront. But have you found the dialogue has sort of shifted about physical space in terms of sort of, obviously physical, but mental and emotional security and safety, as opposed to just sort of the health and well-being of someone?
So much so. I mean, very much so. As you said, the well-being and the wellness awareness came out of the earlier work in sustainability, and sort of sustainability growing up. It became wellness, and then that turned into well-being, and well-being, of course, takes into account everything from mental health, physical health, active design, resilience and restoration, both for personal and for organizations and communities. So there's a much more expansive view of what well-being means. And it's taken on an even greater dimension now, and awareness now, which we think is only good news. But I will say I'm quite impressed by the design industry in general. I often am, but in this case, they really do rise up, because even though, Mindy, you're right, this is like lightning bolt kind of change that comes really out of nowhere. This was on no one's to-do list for 2020. The basic premise of design has not changed, which is we are problem seekers, we're problem understanders, and then we're problem solvers. And it's a different problem. So there's new constraints, there's new problems, we deal with those, and we try to creatively solve these in human and humanistic ways, and then we move on. And then there's another problem that has to be addressed. So in this way, our industry is quite resilient, and in some ways more resilient than our cities and our communities, our clients' world. But we're pretty agile industry. I'm impressed by our firm and our colleagues in the industry and how they've been adapting.
I totally agree with you again, Joe. You know, designers are up for the challenge. This is what we do at heart. Just the other day, I had a friend, I was explaining kind of what I do and what we're going through right now, because she's not in this industry. And she said, wow, this must be a really exciting time for you. And I stopped for a minute and I said, you know, it is in some way. I said, that sounds a little, I don't want to take, I guess sometimes excitement sounds like, hey, we're happy this is happening. And I don't think that's what was intended at all. What I said to her is, I have felt more on purpose than I have in a long, long time. I think when we are dealing with something that is this severe and this wide reaching, when you can actually come up with solutions that really help to keep people safe, move design forward, that's a real on purpose kind of feeling. And in that way, I think designers do feel a sense of accomplishment with what they can solve for right now. And again, it's not to be interpreted as a win for that single person. It's really a win for humanity, so to speak. But that's what designers do. They
the mission becomes quite clear, right?
Yes, exactly.
I mean, you have to find a silver lining in this, if there can be one, right? And you know, if designers in the design community are problem solvers, I think challenges that we're seeing right now is really going to help lead to even more innovation. And sometimes, you know, as a community, we need that little push to, like, you know, move us forward. And, you know, because I think we all get stalled a little bit, right? And, you know, I mean, you would hate to have something like a pandemic to sort of help us move forward in this way. But, you know, once again, these challenges really, really, you know, the amazing things, the amazing ideas, the amazing, you know, innovation come out of periods like this.
They really do, you know, and this isn't, even though this is probably one of the more dramatic things that we all have experienced in our lifetime. And just going back to design as a solution, you know, I think it's so easy for people that are not in the design industry to think that design is really all about what looks pretty or beautiful. And obviously that's a very important facet of, and it's a cue to want to engage. When we find things attractive or interesting, we want to kind of lean into those. But design is fuller dimension than that. It is about problem solving. It's about innovating. It's about taking things to a whole new place and doing it in very beautiful ways.
Absolutely. Well, Joe, I wanted to go back to something you sort of touched on earlier. So how are you mapping out how to maintain the original intention of a space? So whether it's your own offices of your clients, or, you know, Basecamp that you worked on originally, while addressing some of the more immediate needs that, you know, so that people can get back to the workplace?
Well, it's interesting. Our own studios, Basecamp, and all of our clients all have very different work styles, very different work cultures. So they are all in different places, and when this started and when we come out of it. And we'll come out of it, I think, quite gradually. For most of us, there's an eagerness to get back to work, not because it was so magical, but we miss our colleagues. We miss the human side of most knowledge workers have a connection to the people, right? So that's what we miss. We miss humans. Even though we see each other, that's not the same as having contact and you know, getting all the body language and quite clearly the innovation and problem solving is best when there is a group. So we are all in the sort of the place matters business. Place matters. So because place matters, we look at why do we have these workplaces? And this is a question that even it's in the press, but certainly our own clients, like, do we need an office anymore? Like, this seems to be working okay. I'm like, well, yes, it's okay. We're surviving. We're running, I think, on momentum, frankly. But did you grow market share? How was your recruiting? Did you build backlog in your business? You know, did you learn and train new people? Did you roll out new quality programs by Zoom? Probably not. So we were able to get by, but I think there's still a lot missing. So in that regard, I think the basic premise of workplace still has not changed, even though we've got a lot of changes to the workplace, but we still fundamentally provide settings and context and tools and variety and postures for people and individuals, organizations to do their most effective work to achieve their mission. That's still what workplace is. How they do that that's the why, right? Then the how they do it is what's going to start to change and adapt, and we are doing that. So ultimately, in designing for workplace, we solve for behavior. What are the new behaviors then that you need in the workplace today that we didn't have before? And for some, it will be going back to things that are quite familiar, and others it's going to be quite different. It means, like, I'm not going to go back to the office for a place to focus. I'm going to only go there when I connect with people. Or I can't get work done at home because of that puppy. So I have, or my kids are in school, so my partner's watching, and we have life changes that require me to have a different setting for me to be effective. And I think we now have much more permissive business culture for us to have that kind of flexibility and those choices, and frankly, that trust. We certainly tested the tools. So when we think about workplaces, we're, ultimately, I like Stuart Brand's old quote, like, buildings are predictions and predictions are wrong. So the best way we can address the prediction of what a workplace should be, the behaviors in a workplace, is to design for multiple outcomes, multiple views, multiple visions of what the future looks like, multiple predictions. That's what used to be called scenario planning or scenario development. And now we think about it just being really much more agile and much more resilient as people and as spaces. So those are the features that we're trying to build back in when people think about going back to work. Our roadmap is looking first at safety and comfort, psychological and physical, material health, safe commutes, safe movement in an office. But the next, or in the near, is what are we going back for?
And do you find that you have to sort of change the conversation that you're having with your clients so that they understand that it's really, that the now is obviously very important for them, and I know that's the most immediate, but because of what happened today, you do need to think about what's the near and the next. What's that education process like? Well,
it's right now, because we don't know what near looks like. It's still guessing. So this is where we start to lay out possible scenarios, and with our clients, we start to get some agreement on what they want to act on, or decide not to act. Like, let's just wait. Can we wait for a while? And some clients are saying, we're not going to talk about this until September. At that point, we'll know a little bit more about vaccine, we'll know about therapeutics, we'll know about back to school, and then we can start to talk about it. So if things can be paused, things were paused. But as many know, some projects have to go on. Leases still expire in good times and in bad. Buildings are sold, mergers and acquisitions still happen. The economy goes up and it goes down. So those affect employment, and employment is what drives workplace. So there are still changes, even though we're trying to wait. There are still things that we have to react to. On the education side, what we're starting to do is try and, a client's, it's their own prerogative to figure out what they want to build, of course. Our real job is to put, hopefully, really viable options in front of them and tell them what the consequences are of some of these different decisions. So when we were laying out, a client asked us to put out a number of scenarios that we should teach them about, for them to consider when building, not just adapting the projects that they have already completed, but the ones that are on their drawing board to open up in a couple years. So we've talked about 4 different scenarios, and my colleague Fred Schmidt and I worked on a paper, and he named these scenarios somewhat cleverly, but one is called play ball, which is, this is a scenario where the virus gets knocked out and we more or less go back to the way things were. We have a pause. It's going to be the economy has to come back up, but it's basically going to get knocked out. Then the other one is sort of the David Boy, the changes thing, where this is a scenario where it remains an ongoing threat, almost like the seasonal flu, and it has to be sort of managed, but it's a somewhat manageable health threat by most. In that regard, we'll have to make some changes to the workplace. Obviously, mechanical systems and sanitation these are the kinds of things we're going to think about. Public transportation is a big part of that. The next one is playing defense, which is sort of like the defense wins championships, where we say, what, there is no preventive or therapeutics. We're kind of in that state now. What happens if this state that we're in keeps going for a while? Well, then the issue is probably more about real estate than it is about design. Like, do we need an office? Do we need an office in downtown versus suburbs? Do we need lots of small offices? Can we be in co-ops? Like, what does work look like while we are waiting for those other things to come along. And the last in the sort of the doom and gloom one is the Mad Max, where he jokingly says, you know what, someone's going to, you know, point a gun to your head for gasoline, or the currency goes awry and the healthcare systems is on its knees. Well, we're not going to design for as though nothing happens, the first scenario. We've already designed that, right? And we're not going to design for Mad Max because we're too hopeful for that.
So Mindy, obviously, you know, shifting gears a little bit to include you in the conversation, you know, I understand at Interface, you've been really leading the conversation around designing for distance and really exploring how flooring can fit into that and how it can help solve the current needs of a space, but obviously how to evolve with design over time. So how can flooring support the return to the office, and how can those changes really endure or even be flexible based on, of course, what Joe is saying, all these different types of scenarios in the future?
You know, the floor actually plays a major role in architecture, if you think about it. Architecture is full of all these different planes, and some of them are quite substantial, the one above us, the ones beside us, the one below us. And, you know, a lot of designers have always used the floor as a major design element. Sometimes we also use it to be kind of a backdrop to other things. But the point is, that plane in architecture, one thing I find so interesting about it is it's actually the only surface in architecture, major surface that is, that we're held to by gravity. So there has to be some sort of innate connection to the floor that's a little bit different than the relationship to the others. Not to say the others aren't important, because it's really an all-encompassing experience. But we have this ability to use the floor to really give us cues and prompts. And it has already been doing that. You know, when you think of things like wayfinding, sometimes we see that, you know, predominantly in healthcare, predominantly in transportation, but you also see it in corporate offices, in universities. And this really is kind of an extension, a deepening or a richening of what the experience of wayfinding is. Instead of using the floor from a wayfinding standpoint to get you from point A to point B, it's to get you from A to B, but also to help get you there more safely. So at Interface, we have this idea, this concept that we are exploring with our customers that we call designing for distance. And it's really rooted in a lot of the guidelines that have come out from the CDC around the 6 feet dimension. You know, that's a health protocol that they feel will help give enough space between individuals to keep them physically safe. But the interesting thing about that dimension is that it's not so far apart that we can't still connect. And I think a lot of what Joe was saying about that need for social connection, even in our workplaces, is still very, very important. And I think a lot of us really got sad when this all hit, because it was like, we're never going to be able to socially connect again. I hope that's not true, and I don't think that's what will be true. I think we will figure out a way to do it safely, and starting with this physical distancing is one way to do that. You know, so how we are implementing that at Interface and with our customers is by working with the customers uniquely, because everybody's experience will be different. Where they are in their planning stages, what they define as preferences from an aesthetic standpoint, what their budget is. You know, there's a lot of things that can weigh in on how we tailor something for someone. But at the root of it all, what we're using really is elements in the floor, whether that, and it doesn't have to be super prescriptive. I think, you know, when Joe was talking about the now, that immediate address, what we saw as a response from a lot of people, especially in our grocery stores and our convenience stores, we saw people putting tape down on the floor to mark the 6 foot dimension, or an arrow to say this is a unilateral corridor, not a bilateral corridor. And, you know, we might still see some of that happening in the very short term. That's a temporary solution. But what we aspire to is that, much like what I was saying earlier, how, you know, design responds, and design can solve for things in very beautiful ways. So we feel that things like elements like color and pattern and texture can be worked into the floor based on the dimensions that we need. Because if you think about what we have at Interface, we have a very flexible modular grid that can be tailored to fit a need, but it also can flex to fit a moment. So if we need to, retract into a moment and then change it back to the way that it was, we can very easily do that. And because it's based in mathematics, we can set dimensions to where these elements of color or pattern show up close to that 6 feet dimension. For us, it would be metric. We are a metric company. So we would be working probably around a 2 meter point. So beautiful lines of color might show up that start to represent that. Or there might be some sort of detail in a corridor that naturally kind of cues the brain to want to push to one side or another, and it starts to part people as they're, traveling down a corridor perhaps. And it doesn't have to be super prescriptive or very strong. You can even use texture. You can have a textural shift that's based on these dimensions. And if the users of the space are informed that that's what they're there for, they can use that, not just intuitively, but intellectually as a reminder to help them use the spacing on the floor, to help them move through space safely, to help them space apart from one another safely. And that can even extend on out to things like zoning and neighborhooding that can help keep a group of people safer by lowering their risk and helping them to kind of stay within one place. That's a very long way of saying that we have this opportunity to use beautiful design elements in a very functional mathematical way to help with physical distancing.
How can flooring support the return to work now, and how can those changes really endure or flex in the future?
Well, a lot of this will be specific to each customer. And so we need to be thinking about the solutions that are unique to them. And so a lot of the things that I've been mentioning just now around how we design for distance with elements in the floor, we can help you with that. We actually have a whole team of designers that are ready to assist and help you think through your process, think through what works for your short-term needs as well as your long-term needs. So keep that in mind, that we can help out with that as well.
Well, it kind of goes back to this idea that we talked about earlier about problem solving, right? In terms
Absolutely.
of using design to problem solve. And it's great that both of you obviously are offering tools to your clients, to really help solve these issues. Whether it's sort of what is in the palette of Interface, or obviously for Joe, Perkins and Will, you spoke about it earlier, but Perkins and Will literally created a roadmap to return, this very comprehensive, but ever-changing, correct, sort of listing of guidelines that you can share with both your clients, but it seems like, because it's on your website, something really that you're sharing with sort of the global community, because everyone has these questions, and not that we all have the answers as of yet, but it's great to sort of have the ability to have a place where you can have this dialogue in a document in a way that's maybe palatable, that people can understand. Okay, here's some ideas for how you deem the now, the near, and the next.
Yeah. Well, you're right. It has been updated a couple, almost, and some early on it was updated once a week. As soon as CDC or World Health Organization gave an update, we would do an update. But you're right. That's something that we've given out to everybody. We've given it to our clients, but it is free for everyone in the industry. Anyone that can tap into our website and get that. And then I think we're up to 38 or so microsites that deal with back to campus, back to K-12. What does sports and rec look like in the future? Assembly spaces, arts spaces and galleries. So those are spaces that require their own unique roadmap. And we're tackling those and putting out ideas to keep the conversation going so that collectively we're all doing a better job at tackling this new problem.
So Interface is leading by example, and they're embarking upon the redesign for distance of their very own Atlanta headquarters. So Mindy, I know when you guys set about to design your new headquarters back in 2017, 2018, when it first opened, which of course you finally called the Basecamp, you guys saw the need to bring a sense of community back to the Interface workforce. Not only were you renovating your physical workspace, but obviously you sought to renovate the way you were working. And of course, I think now in 2020, that statement seems incredibly apt. of course, as you probably now look how to bring your employees back to work in the post-pandemic world. So, you know, both for Interface and of course Perkins and Will, who designed the first iteration of Basecamp and looking to the future, it might be nice to just sort of touch on what was the original goal of Basecamp when it opened back in 2018, and, you know, did it maintain the original mission of Interface, which obviously was about sustainability and biophilic design and resiliency, choice, and connection?
Well, and you know, Joe may want to jump in on some of this as well too, but you know, when we designed Basecamp, we knew that we wanted to do it differently, and we wanted to find a better way to work, and a way that would increase productivity, ease the creative process, support collaboration. And Perkins and Will did a fantastic job at even kind of pushing us into what that next version of our office space would be. And, you know, up until COVID hit, not only did we get the opportunity to really experience this, because, you know, this was really the first time that we got to not just talk about how the future of the workplace works, we got to show how it works through our experience. So we had lots of customers, people within the industry and outside the industry wanting to come and see this experience. And so when COVID hit, you know, I think it probably crossed all of our minds as to, well, what does this mean for Basecamp? And after we kind of all, you know, let the dust settle just a little bit, what we're all realizing, and even through conversations with Joe and Perkins and Will, because they are going to be working with us on this again, is that we want to continue to be a leader and help pioneer the way of what the next version of the future of the workplace could look like, where there still is collaboration, but just done in a different way, a safer way. So I don't think it's the death of collaboration or maintaining social connection. We just need to find a new way to do it. Joe, I don't know if you want to add into any of that.
Well, Joe,
go ahead, Helene.
No, I was going to sort of lead you in, because Joe, it'd be really interesting to see from your perspective for Perkins and Will, sort of what is the evolution of the space for Interface?
Well, the interesting thing about Basecamp is it was designed to be a pilot, and it would never be done. So it was really, there was no precedent for it within Interface, and frankly, a lot of the things about the customer experience, dealing with product, teaching about sustainability to the local and the business community, the A&D community, teaching students how to teach the idea of systems thinking, design thinking. That was all part of the premise. The premise of Basecamp was that good things happen when people get together. When they get together, they need information, and they are best to get information from each other by exchange. So it was designed for interaction. Now, we took a guess on these predictions about what kind of settings should we have. Some are social, some that are private, some that are quiet, some that are loud, some that are dark, some that are light. That variety, choice, tools, and trust were sort of these principles, and that we could adjust those as needed on a per floor basis or on a neighborhood basis or over time basis. Of course, Interface is in an industry where there tends to be seasons for either client engagement or for product rollouts and for design shows and launches and such. So it has to flex, and it was designed to be quite agile, but it's also designed to never be done. So when they went for LEED Platinum, when they went for WELL, and they went for heavy emphasis in biophilic systems, and they believe in inquiry. So Carnegie Mellon and others are looking at this all the time, saying, what's our utilization look like? What's our energy look like? What's our water look like? What is our satisfaction level? What's our effectiveness? Let's teach ourselves what we know. What do we know about this place? How can we make it better? And how can we share that with customers in the industry? And then we'll get even better yet. So let's just assume that it's never done. It's a continuum, and it can always be better. And things will change. You know, some assumptions change, like this COVID, but the commitment to changing it in fact, it was designed for this. It was designed for change.
Yeah. Well, it seems like Interface had a crystal ball and sort of knew already that they had to have a flexible, adaptable, versatile space when first moving into Basecamp. So you guys, thank you so much. I know that we've tackled some really big ideas and really big issues today, and you can only really scratch the surface within 30 minutes. And we all know that this is going to be an ongoing conversation that as a community we're going to continue to have. But with that, I certainly would love to thank you both for your time and your insight. And for our audience, I would love you to please check out the Interface website and blog and really get updated on their ideas for distancing. And please also check out Perkins & Will and their roadmap to return. Thank you all.
You can't do a great building without really thinking about the interior, and you can't do a great interior without thinking about how it connects to a larger kind of idea.
Why do people want to live or work in your spaces?
I think there's a practical side to what we do, and then maybe there's a more kind of exuberant side to what we do also.
Yeah.
We're not trying to be outrageous, we're just trying to do good architecture. I grew up in Lowell, Massachusetts, which is kind of an industrial mill town. My mother was very creative. She came to the US from Ireland in the late 50s. My father was in construction.
Do you remember, you used to go on the sites together?
I did. He was a bricklayer, actually. And he used to, I was one of 5 boys. He used to bring one of us with him.
Did you enjoy it, or you enjoyed being with your dad?
You know, I hated it, but I enjoyed it, I guess. He was a craftsman, so I think I learned a lot through that process. Welcome.
All right, I want to see.
Yeah, we bought the building a year ago, and we're in the midst of renovating, starting fresh.
It looks like an art gallery.
Everything is in process, and it's part of how we work.
What is this project?
This is actually a residential project, and we wanted to kind of explore the materiality of the building. This is a paper model. This is a 3D print. The drawing is kind of an amalgamation of all different ways in which we work and see the project.
Did you know when you were in school that maybe you wanted to be an architect? When did the inspiration really strike?
One day I picked up a Morphosis book, and I was just kind of amazed by what was inside there. It was kind of a whole new way of looking at architecture. I knew that that's what I wanted to do. While I was at UCLA, I worked for Frank Gehry, and then soon after that, I went to work for Tom Main. Tom was very good about giving us a lot of responsibility as young designers. We did a design center in Taiwan. We did a stadium in Mexico. Creative office spaces were starting to happen at that time, so I did a lot of those.
Did it give you a new appreciation for interiors as a holistic piece of the design equation?
Yeah, because you know the interiors, the way we thought about them then, and the way I still continue to think about them, is that it's not just an interior; it's an environment. It's how one experiences a space, whether it's an office or a house or a restaurant. Interiors and architecture, they go hand in hand.
Yeah. And then you opened your practice, right?
I had an opportunity to do a residential project. My wife was expecting our first child, so I don't know what I was thinking, but I went off on my own and started my own architecture practice. It was a leap of faith, but yeah, I never looked back. We were trying to push certain ideas spatially, experientially, and that kind of started it.
Patrick is an artist and a sculptor.
Yes.
And that is evident when you see our house.
Harvey and Nina had lived in the home for how many years?
20-some years.
20 years, and they really wanted something different.
We really were looking to have very clean lines, but activity in those lines. There's not a right angle pretty much in the whole house. At nighttime, you get this light shining.
It's a beautiful twinkle,
right?
right?
Oh my God, it's so wonderful. It's like Christmas every day.
Patrick, that's what I was saying. I'm like, am I in a different house? Where's the one that's twinkling at night? It's this house.
Right, it is.
So we're always trying new things, pushing new ideas, and looking at new materials or new ways to fabricate.
but you still have like this obsession. Is it an obsession with spray foam?
We were on a tear there, just using the material. We started with the installation that we did downtown LA. That led to a few other projects. We did a project for Rick Owens, designer, a house we're still working on out in Joshua Tree, where we're using the foam as a fully integral building material. The profession is evolving, and we as designers must evolve too.
So what do we have here?
These are various studies, prototypes.
Beautiful.
We're working on a series of stools for our residents, and we have these ideas of molding.
Custom butt stools.
Yeah, so
beautiful. Whose butt is that?
I can't tell. It's a big secret.
Don't tell.
It's easy to design a project and then not have it built. So you have to be pretty smart about figuring out a way to get to built. And oftentimes that comes with being very practical.
Yeah, but you're not going for the obvious. Let's put it out there, Patrick.
We strive for great design. But sometimes that means a project needs to be really simple, and maybe there's an opportunity to push a piece or an area or an idea. In my own studio, I try to create an atmosphere where people want to be engaged and want to collaborate. So we work in the commercial realm, development, mixed-use projects. Housing is a huge issue in LA, so right now we have several affordable housing projects also in the works. Good design doesn't discriminate.
So Patrick, this is a very special building.
The residents here are formerly homeless LGBTQ youth and other people living with disabilities. We played with this idea of having this connection to the city, but yet being protected and safe.
It's so cool in here.
The planting helps. We create almost like a microclimate. We implemented the first gray water system in the city for this project.
Hey, I'm Angelo.
Angelo, good to see you.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
What's it like to live here?
I call it my sanctuary.
Yeah.
No, I call it our little sanctuary.
I had years of struggle,
I'm sorry.
but now I'm here and absolutely, completely, overwhelmingly changed my life.
Thank you.
That's so nice.
I love this place.
People think that affordable housing is this horrible thing and no one really wants it in their backyard. But, these are just people wanting a place to live. And architecturally, they can be something special. We've been able to kind of elevate what those projects can be. We're finishing up a park in Santa Monica. We have these enormous shade structures. The park is a universally accessible playground, so it's designed for children of all abilities. We like it when the architecture works at different levels.
Right.
So it can work for kids with disabilities, but it also can be, architecture with a capital A. We're very much interested in building, but also we're interested in this other angle of the work, which is representation. Right now we have a show here downtown LA at A&D Museum. You can work at a certain level and explore certain things at the scale of a building, and then you can also explore those same ideas or different ones at the scale of a drawing or at the scale of an artifact. We call it doppelgangers because it's like more than one way of looking at a project.
Your work is like pieces of art.
I think part about architecture these days is what's different from us is we produce a lot of shit. We make stuff, we make models and drawings. We're always moving in different directions. Everybody is, right? So we try to harness that and push design. That's what we do.
Hey everybody, this is Cindy Allen, Editor-in-Chief of Interior Design. You've just watched that glorious documentary on Patrick Tighe, and we're lucky enough to now have him in almost real life, well, in real life, but not touching each other. And I just wanted to check in with Patrick Tighe. Hi, Patrick, how are you?
Hey, Cindy, I'm doing well, thanks. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, so Patrick, you're in LA. Yes?
I am.
Yes.
At home.
At home. You're okay?
Yeah, we're good. Everyone's laying low and taking care of ourselves, but everything's good, thank God.
Yeah. So tell us what is it like right now in LA, and how you're handling the office and your kids there.
Well, at LA, we took things seriously early, and luckily things aren't so bad as in other places in the country. People were pretty good about social distancing at an early time and staying home as soon as we were told to. We had great leadership in LA, in California, and we presented the facts, and people listened, and it seemed to have worked a little bit better here in California than in other parts of the country. So I think we consider ourselves lucky.
And also because, LA is different than a city like New York, right? Because everyone's in their cars, there is more space, I think, is probably helping the situation, which, by the way, we're so thankful that you guys are in better shape than those of us in New York.
Yeah, that's true. It's not quite as dense. Certain parts of LA are, but for the most part, we're more spread out, and we do depend on our cars more. So it's not the same as in, say, New York City.
Yeah. So tell us, Patrick, the last time I was with you, you had this beautiful office, but I believe like after you were telling me you were expanding it.
Oh, we moved actually.
Oh, you moved?
Yeah,
you moved out of that office?
Yeah, we did. I bought another building, and we're fixing it up. And I like to have projects, so these offices, they just, that one turns into the other, and it's their way of, I don't know. It's like another job. But we moved into a larger space, a warehouse space, which is fantastic. But we moved in about a month ago, and then like a week later, everybody went to work at home. So we look forward to reconvening and being back in the space all together. Hopefully pretty soon.
Yeah, you're always on the edge. So that office was definitely on the edge. Is the new warehouse in that neighborhood?
Yeah, it's not too far. It's just down the street actually. But it's like a raw space. It needs a lot of work, but it's a work in progress. It'll take shape over time. I can't wait to come back to LA and come visit us.
Yeah, me too. I can't wait, because that one was so beautiful, but it may be a little small, perhaps. Whoever got in it now, who's ever renting it now, they're lucky, huh?
Yeah, they seem to be enjoying it. So,
so Patrick, let's talk about work. How are your clients doing? How are your projects doing?
Well, we're doing okay. We're lucky in the sense that a lot of our work is housing. Housing in LA is, in high demand. A lot of the work that we do is for nonprofit developers. We do a lot of affordable housing. We do work we do market rate work as well. But a lot of these projects were entitled, or the money's been in place, so they're continuing. We have several under construction, and we have several in the midst of getting permitted and titled. So all those seem to be like rolling along. So right now we seem to be fine. That's not to say who knows what's going to happen 6 months from now. But right now, if all the invoices get paid and all these projects keep rolling along, we're in pretty good shape. If for some reason the new work doesn't start coming in or stops coming in down the road, then that's always a possibility. So it's a cautious time. It's a scary time, but on the other hand, I remain optimistic, and I feel lucky that I haven't laid anybody off. My office is still going strong. So
that's amazing, Patrick, and we love to hear that good news. We need some positivity, that's for sure. Patrick, let's talk about the work, because you do all sorts of work through your career, very artistic, but you have been starting to move more towards a different kind of meaning with the work, and we saw it in the documentary. but what's that been like for you, and how do you see it moving forward?
Well, we like to have like diverse array of projects in the office at any one time, and that keeps it interesting for us. So it's not about the prototype or how big or small the project is, but for us it's always great to have a variety of work. And we do high-end residential. We love to do interiors and commercial interiors. We're doing a lot, like I said, we're doing a lot of housing. That seems to be right now the majority of the work in the office is like mixed-use buildings, residential or commercial. Those are the buildings that are in demand right now in LA, mostly in Southern California. There seems to be a huge need for those, and our office is doing a ton of them. So we're grateful for that work. We're also, we have a lot of projects that have more of a kind of a social bend to them. We're doing a homeless center in Watts.
That's what I meant. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We're doing a homeless access center in Watts, and we do affordable housing. We have several affordable housing projects underway. We're doing a Boys and Girls Club back in Massachusetts. So these are projects that are meaningful. They're not huge money makers, of course, but it's important, I think, to have your feet in these different areas. And like I said, for us, it just makes it interesting to be able to be working in different realms. And then to contribute is always nice too.
Oh yeah, to contribute. No, but Patrick, what was the name of the affordable housing one that we went to visit, where we saw and met some of the renters?
All right, that one was in LA. It was on La Brea. We call it La Brea, but it was in West Hollywood on La Brea near Santa Monica Boulevard. That was.
Yeah, but it was so touching, right?
Yeah, they're tough jobs, but in the end, it's pretty rewarding. Like in that case, the people that live there are super appreciative, and they really are happier, and grateful to have a place to call home. And, it means a lot.
Yeah, I think we edited it way down, but like somebody had like really, really hard life, and it wasn't looking good, and getting like that safety and being in such a beautiful space, it changed his life. And I just remember that touching moment with him.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's nice to go back and to hear those stories and to see people actually using the space. And yeah, it's great.
And we had it, the park in, where was the park? Where's the outdoor park on the beach? That wasn't finished when we were filming. So how's that one doing?
Oh, right. That's North Beach in Santa Monica. It's a park on the beach north of the pier in Santa Monica. That was a universe accessible playground, so it was for kids of all abilities. Yeah, kids love it. It's like a destination in the city, and these little kids come up to me all the time and tell me how much they like the park, and it's fun.
That's amazing. So now let's talk about. I saw on Instagram that you were posting the masks, 3D printed masks that you've been working on with your team. So tell us about that.
Well, we started that a couple of weeks ago. There was a few of us at USC that just started doing it, and then Alvin Huang, one of the guys I teach with, he turned it into this. He basically called out for other people to contribute, and before you knew it, there was, I don't know, a group of like 300 people doing it. So it turned into like this huge thing. The mayor got involved, mayor's office got involved, and then so far they've contributed like 5,000 masks to the city. So I had a very, very small part, but we were glad to be part of that from the very beginning, and to initiate this. What turned into like a huge contribution. Well, not a huge contribution, but a contribution nonetheless.
Yeah.
That hopefully could help out in some way. Like we said earlier, California isn't as bad as other parts of the country, and I know that a lot of those PPE were shipped off to various parts of the country where they were needed more. than in California. But we're peaking this week, so we'll see how how bad it actually gets.
Yeah, so tell us about the, it looked super cool. Tell us about where were these being produced? How are they being like made? Did you guys design the mask, or what was the deal?
Well, there's an open source file that was provided. It was actually a professor back east that had them, and we were able to get a hold of it in a couple weeks. My wife's a nurse, by the way, and so I was, it has a little bit of a personal aspect there to it as well. But we were able to get this open source file, and then most architects have 3D printers in their offices, right? So it's really not a huge deal to just fire up a 3D printer and start printing them.
Right.
It's just time. Each mask takes like 3 hours to print, so it is kind of time consuming, I guess, and you just have to be able to reset the printer and watch over it. So we had a couple printers in our office. A couple of guys took them home with them, and they just printed at their own apartments or their own homes, and they're still going just around the clock. So it's really not a huge amount of work. It was just it was something that we could do, something that every firm could do easily. So it just made sense to do it.
That's amazing. Now, is your wife at home or is she working? Tell us about her experience.
She's in LA. She's at UCLA. She works in sexual assault, but she signed up to go to the emergency room when and if she's needed. So like right now there isn't a huge need, but if the hospital gets overwhelmed, she'll work in the ER. But that hasn't happened yet. But it could. This is the week where it might happen.
Right.
But right now things are okay. Things don't look so bad.
Well, we're thankful for that. Does she have any other information that she passed along that you could share with us? I forgot that she was a nurse.
Yeah, she's a nurse practitioner, but
right.
she doesn't usually work in the ER. Like I said, she works in sexual assault, but she signed up to go in if needed. That's what they do. Like if the ER gets overwhelmed, they ask for other nurses. She used to work in the ER, so they ask for other nurses to come in and contribute.
Well, you have to send her our love. So, so Patrick, tell me how are you handling with your employees? How are you handling working? Like, what's it like? What's the day-to-day kind of like?
Well, we like everyone else, we're on Zoom, and I stare at a computer full of faces all day, and we keep it open all day long, and we converse back and forth throughout the day, which is to me a little odd, that we're all looking at each other for 8 hours a day, but it seems to work to be able to keep the communication lines open, because so much of what we do is about working together and communicating, and it's more difficult, but we're able to make it work. It doesn't really replace being able to work together in the same space, but we make it work.
Yeah, and could you just maybe give us some cliff notes of like a couple of the things that you're like literally either sketching or drawing or in the design phase of right now?
Yeah, we're still pursuing work, so we have a few jobs that we're trying to get. We're doing this great project back in Massachusetts for a Boys and Girls Club, so we're working hard on that.
Where are you with that project?
That one we're in design development, just finishing up design development. And that's an amazing project because it's more than the Boys and Girls Club. This club feeds 600 kids a day, so it's a great project to be part of. So we're glad to be part of that one.
Hey Patrick, is that
our housing project?
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Sorry.
Is that project? Did that project happen through your brothers who are in Boston?
Well, it's in Lowell, Massachusetts, where I grew up. We're doing a couple projects there, and the Boys and Girls Club is in Lowell. Yeah, as a kid, I used to go there, so it's kind of fun to be able to revisit that and to
You're so low key, Patrick. That's so cool, right? That you were part of that as a kid, and now you're going to be renovating it and making it so special.
Yeah, it's a good project.
And then you were saying something else. What other?
Then all our projects in LA are going strong. A lot of mixed use projects. We have like 8 or 9 under construction, and then we're busy developing others. So like I said, we're busy. We're lucky in that sense.
You're used to going on site, though. It must be hard where things are like kind of stopped right now.
Well, all our project meetings, they're via Zoom, so they're video conference meetings. And then I have been going to certain sites, and it's okay as long as your social distancing stays 6 feet away. There's guidelines in place for the city. LA has their guidelines for on-site work, as does Santa Monica, West Hollywood. They all have their own kind of rules to allow for workers to continue working. It's a tough one, right? Like, what's more important, to produce housing or to keep workers healthy, right? So it's like a touchy situation and a fine line. But the hope is that if everyone abides by the rules, that hopefully they'll stay safe and still be able to build the essential housing that's needed.
Well, we're so appreciative of all the community work that you're doing, besides all the great design you're doing. So let's put it out there. You do great design, but just that piece of the business where you're giving so much to others and making a difference where we really, really need it. And so it takes on like a different kind of importance and meaning these days, that's for sure.
Thank you.
Okay, but listen, we want to thank you, and thank you for being, being our compadre, our representative in LA. We need you to be the leader that you are, and send my best to your wife and all your staff. All right, well, sending you a big virtual hug.
Likewise.
Yeah. Big love to you, Patrick. All my best. Okay.
Love you. Talk to you soon.
Okay.
Thanks again.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
The smartphone. How did we ever live without it? And now it has become a powerful tool for all you designers and architects. Interior Design is excited to introduce Launch, a new feature right inside the magazine that's built around the smartphone. Launch allows for the speed and efficiency of a digital platform while providing the inspiration and curation of a magazine. So you may ask, well, how does it work? Just point your phone at a launch code and it will activate a powerful, intuitive user interface. One in which you can instantly select from multiple actions, all at the touch of a button. Do you want to, say, download a spec sheet? How about contact a rep? Or just get a sample? Launch will help you discover the newest products in the market and easily take action. Now, keep your eye out for it. We are loving Launch.
Hi everybody, this is Cindy Allen, Editor-in-Chief of Interior Design Magazine, and welcome to the 7th Annual HIP Awards. HIP, honoring industry, people, and product. You know, every year we celebrate HIP at NeoCon, where we get to see the latest and greatest new product, but also where we commune with the industry. I miss you all so much, and I know you miss each other. I know you do. You know, when the Mart was renovated a few years back by our friends at A+I, we found our HIP Awards home at Marshall's Landing, hanging out all over the stairs there, remember? Well, this year we're apart. But the next best thing to being there is watching right here with us. So let's try and imagine we're together. I will. Will you? Okay. Last week, we brought you the hippest product that would have been at NeoCon. And we honored innovation, materiality, sustainability, and new introductions responding quickly to COVID, because we're that type of industry. But today, it's all about the people. Some you know, but some are more behind the scenes. So in addition to the designer and manufacturer, we celebrate the creative director, the marketer, the seller, and a slew of rising stars and more. But first, a special thanks to our friends at the Mart for their ongoing support of the HIP Awards and being an outstanding partner to the community. Thanks, Mart. A huge shout out to our 2020 sponsors, Formica, Interface, Material Bank. And a big thanks to our HIP sponsors through our Select program. We have Bentley, Benjamin Moore, Arcom, Arcadia, Encore, Padcraft, Momentum, Newcraft, Formica, Hayworth, Architects, and Shaw Contract. Thank you. And a huge thanks to Material Bank, the revolutionary platform that simplifies the complex process of material search and solves the unique problems of sampling. Material Bank is now the world's largest material marketplace for the A&D industry, but we couldn't do it without our partners. Check this out. We now have 240 plus partners. Look at them all. And 35,000 vetted professional design members, representing about 75,000 design projects since 2019. You want a sample from any of these partners? Easy breezy. You order by midnight and everything gets delivered in a single box by 10:30 a.m. the next day. Amazing. Thank you, partners. It does take a community. Are you ready to celebrate our industry's best? I am. Here we go. We start with designers and then on to manufacturers. Our first category, graphics and branding leader, designer. This graphic design pro made waves in the Bay Area since joining the firm 6 years ago. With the shared philosophy that good design is about placemaking, problem solving, and storytelling. She finds most of her inspiration through design-based travel. She visits rich cities and small villages and gorges visually on patterns, textures, color palettes, food, fashion, and more. And since every O+8 project includes graphics and branding, she's a guiding light on all projects, small and large, like McDonald's, where she made their Happy Meal toys look good. That's hard too. Her scope of work usually goes far beyond just graphics. She can handle anything from client relations to kerning. Letters, that is. Her statement says it all. She believes good design is rooted in empathy. She loves connecting the dots, people, and different disciplines. Our hipster graphic designer winner is Elizabeth Veriker and her dog Ruby, O+A's mascot. Congrats, Elizabeth, you are hip. Our next category is hospitality leader. This hipster's furniture maker father got him started early on when he built him a special platform so he could reach the workbench. Love that. He never became a master carpenter, but he's known around the office for his diverse toolbox of skills.
his long hair, and his love of snowboarding. He joined Rote Studio when it first launched in '08, and he's worked on projects like the very chic Hotel Alessandro in Houston, that we published in Interior Design, the very industrial Calvary Court in Texas, that we also published in Interior Design, and the historic Made Modern Four Seasons in Bogota, Colombia, which we also published in Interior Design. One thing he geeks out on is designing with boxes, all types and all kinds, and they make their way into the latest, greatest project, like a reception desk inspired by a stack of ammo crates, and these cozy bar nooks inspired by a Chanel purse. His craft always goes back to his roots, like the design of this fluorescent table commonly found in Mexican taquerias. So I ask you, what does he have in common with Captain America? His name. A hip congrats to our hospitality superhero, Chris Evans of Rote Studio. Our next category is Healthcare Leader. This highly recognized designer with 34 years under her belt has designed some of the country's most progressive facilities. After her first healthcare project, her career went from being successful to being significant. Her extensive research anchors her belief that the environments where we live, work, and play greatly reflect and affect who we are as individuals. I agree. These foundational beliefs were shaped by her early childhood in Colombia, South America, and enhanced by extensive international travel that influences her unique design perspective. She was president of Magretti Interiors, a 22-employee interior design firm, until it was acquired by HKS in 2011. All that global experience made her well-suited for her role as director of HKS's Global Health Interiors practice. Her projects showcase evidence-informed design and holistic healing environments. She has spoken around the world on the importance the built environment has on the way we live. Traveling and being in nature help her recharge, and it informs her design practice too. To clear her mind, she walks. I mean, she even made the El Camino pilgrimage in Spain. I mean, she really walks. To challenge her mind, she does puzzles. And to relax her mind, she enjoys time with her husband. And making a big impact on the future of healthcare, our hipster leader extraordinaire is Anna Pinto Alexander of HKS. A huge congrats, Anna. Our next category, Workplace Leader. This workplace leader likes to work, and it started early on. At 15, he won a drafting contest. And the next day, a local architect gave him a job. Now he designs offices where people can do their best work as a principal of Perkins & Will in Chicago. And his list includes heavy hitters like Interface, Herman Miller, Hayworth, and Google. He also lectures, writes, and sits on panels and juries. He works so much that to get away from it all, he enjoys quiet sports like kayaking, snowshoeing, and even bicycling. Speaking of, he even designed a biking headquarters. He's inspired by the following: his 3 daughters, the composition of every shot in Alfred Hitchcock's Rear Window, and artful graffiti. But for him, the most important in his design process is still drafting on paper and giving a new perspective to the work. Making it work is our workplace leader. You are so hip, Joe Connell of Perkins & Will. Congrats, Joe. Hip, hip, hooray! Hip, hip,
Hooray! Are you commenting on Facebook? Are you dancing at home in your sweats? You better be. Our next category is hip for the greater good, small firm. Now, going from the Air Force to design school seems like a big leap, but not if you know this hipster who learned about becoming fearless, the power of personal space, and what it takes to make a difference when she was deployed. She started her firm determined by design with a clear purpose: to bring design equity to affordable and supportive housing projects. It's a minority and veteran-owned business that reflects its founder's philosophy of service before self. She believes everyone is worthy of good design. And when not busy with her clients, she shares that message by giving back to the interior design community, by being student advisory chair for ASID and sitting on the board of directors for Room to Rebloom. It's a non-for-profit organization that provides design services to women who have been victims of domestic violence to help rebuild their lives. And if that isn't enough, she teaches and is a sought-after motivational speaker, I bet. And she mentors students to give them the sound advice she wished she had been given. This gal, she really walks the walk, and she does it all while dancing in her signature high heels. From soldier to interior designer to being determined by design, our small firm hipster for greater good goes to the one and only Kia Weatherspoon. Hip hip hooray, girl! Our next hip for greater good, large firm. This hipster is a principal of architecture and interiors for Spacesmith, where she leads the design of humane, uplifting urban environments for some of the most vulnerable and underrepresented communities, such as the homeless, the previously incarcerated, and children in the foster care system. She's also committed to sustainability at all scales, like this LEED V4 Gold certified apartment complex in Queens, New York, which includes 81 affordable units. Love that. And features sustainably sourced, third-party certified finishings and furnishings. Focused on the psychology of space and wellness, this hipster has guided organizations like the Queens Economic Development Corporation and this one, the New York Legal Assistance Group, consolidating their footprints, designing supportive facilities for clients and staff, and providing minority-owned businesses phased plans for safely resuming operations post-COVID. So smart. As a faculty member of Manhattan School of Visual Arts, she engages young designers in the city's Department of Design and Construction program called Town and Gown. Students explore design that fosters the rehab of convicts based on the principles of environmental psychology and evidence-based design. Her passion for others knows no bounds, writing and speaking about designing healthy environments for survivors of trauma, violence, and injustice. She's also a founding member of the Latino American Commercial Real Estate Association, advocating for its Hispanic members. To get away from it all, she's big into Shinrin-yoku, Japanese for forest bathing, where you take in the forest with your senses. And she has a budding passion for horticulture. Her co-workers are always surprised by her green thumb and knowledge of astrology. The stars are aligning for this hipster of greater good, large firm, that's Ambar Margarita. Hooray! Next, rising star for hospitality. When she was just a teen, this hipster loved building houses in The Sims. Little did her parents know all that gaming would inspire her future career. She started her journey studying environmental art in China, then went on to the States at the New York School of Interior Design, where she got her Master's of Fine Arts in Interior Design. A big shout out to Lillian Wu, her mentor and former senior associate at Tony Chi. Her star is rising at Rockwell, which she joined in 2017. She has completed a range of hotel, restaurant, and bar projects at the firm, including Moxie East Village. She believes design is guided by culture, art, and philosophy with every project she touches. She wants to make the experience meaningful. Speaking of culture, she broadens her horizons by visiting the master, Mies van der Rohe. And that takes her to new heights, like hiking up the Yulong Mountain in China. And we expect her to take us to new design heights in the future. This rising hipster star of hospitality design is Alex Gong. Congrats, Alex. Our next category is Rising Star in their workplace. Now, 10 years ago, she was an intern. Today, she is the design lead associate and environmental graphic designer in Gensler's New York office. With strong expertise in developing branded environmental experiences across retail, workplace, and educational institutions. She believes design should add a meaningful layer into every space. You betcha. In addition to playing an integral role in the brand design studio, she's a natural team leader and mentor who is actively involved in Gensler's internal culture. She works on non-for-profit projects like this one, leads Black History Month programming in 3 Gensler offices, and participates in community impact work for the Right to Dream Foundation. Now, check this out. When she was just 15, she was already a preschool dance teacher, and today she teaches salsa at Alvin Ailey Extension. Did I mention she's an overachiever? When she isn't twirling on the dance floor, she's twirling, pinning, and arranging her hair. She's even got an Insta handle, Give Them Hair, if you want some design do's. She loves unusual birds and sea creatures for their extraordinary colors, patterns, and textures, which she then translates into all her designs. This vibrant designer gives new meaning to the phrase full of life. Congrats as your star continues to rise, Fiji St. Louis. Hey Fiji, fantastic. Can you believe all these people? Amazing, right? Aren't they hip? Aren't they amazing? Okay, next is Lifetime of Hipness for Designer. As an 8-year-old, this hipster was obsessed with Legos. When his father explained what an architect did for a living, well, it stuck. Early on, he also learned the importance of service and leadership during his Boy Scout days. In fact, he became an Eagle Scout, so you could say leading was etched early in his DNA. Here he is on the left with hair, because you wouldn't recognize him, along with his proud grandfather and his beloved brother. In '94, there was a teaching stint at Washington University. Fast forward, with over 25 years of experience, you could say he's still proving his natural leadership ability. Now, he's the firm-wide Director of Interiors at HOK New York. He oversees conceptual design, programming, space planning, finish and furniture selection, design and detail development, site inspections, and construction administration for all interior design projects. And that creates award-winning ones too, like this one. And this one, Shiseido, that just recently won an NYC by Design Award. Always respecting the heritage of a company, but looking ahead to the future with beauty and innovation. Beyond all that, he helped establish HOK Product Design. And it has become a successful business arm for the firm. His inner mixologist comes out on the weekends with, listen to this, rhubarb lime margaritas, cucumber basil martinis, and whiskey Negronis. 3 cheers to a lifetime of service, leadership, and design. Heck, I'll shrink to that. Hip hip hooray to Tom Palucci. Hey Tom, hooray! Hip hip hooray! Hip hip hooray for all our designers. Aren't they amazing? Aren't they hip? hope you're inspired because I am. Okay, we're moving on to manufacture. And our first one is product designer. This designer's namesake studio specializes in natural and sustainable designs in textiles and more. Being a trained architect, her process begins with an analysis of how people will interact with the product and the environment. Very smart. She tested that with her kids at a Filsfeld shoot here in 2017. Speaking of her kids, she's got 2 young'uns with her hubby, and they all live in Boston. Speaking of her being a kid, this is her painting her bedroom in the mid-1990s. A recent collection of HBF textiles is all about cities. She likes to look up at the clouds and architectural facades. She looks down too, noting brick patterns and utility grates, all inspiring what she might be designing next. Speaking of looking up, she supports her community running Mindy, a creative space offering art and design classes for kids. She's so busy that she's known for making tea and promptly forgetting where it is. That's just like me. This on-the-go gal even took her 8-week-old son to NeoCon a few years back. Talk about passion and commitment. Our hip product designer manufacturer winner, drumroll please, goes to the very hip Kelly Harris Smith. You go, girl. Our next category is creative director for the manufacturer. This hipster's first job, oh my God, fast forward 25 years, is still at the same company today, and that's Shaw. Wow, she's living proof that time really does fly when you're doing what you're meant to. She directs the workplace, community, lifestyle, and global design studios, and leading her teams to explore the intersection of micro and macro design trends and their application in the built environment. Traveling is her inspiration and her tool. For instance, she learned all about silk weaving in Thailand and Cambodia and explored the community of women's artisan cooperatives in Morocco's Atlas Mountains. Hey, let's not forget her husband and travel bud. And when she's not baking up new collections, she's, well, baking bread. Our hip creative director for a manufacturer is VP of Global Design for Shaw Contract, Reese Duncan. Congrats, Reese. Next, leader manufacturer. It all started with a gallon of hot pink paint and 4 bedroom walls at age 10, and it's been a colorful journey ever since. This hipster graduated from Michigan University of Fine Arts, and that opened the door for working with the best in the field. She designed neckwear for Jane Barnes. Doesn't every textile designer start that way? And there learned computer and technical proficiency. At Maharam, she worked with a slew of constructions and mills. Wolf Gordon, collaboration and innovation were the drivers, and at Knoll, she learned how to write code. Impressive. All these experiences led her to Interface, where design could affect even bigger changes. Taking inspiration from the world around her, she designs with dialogue to create a common language on global issues, such as sustainability, wellness, and culture. Her passion for nature is represented in the collection she creates. Oh yes. And many times they're also feats of engineering. As with all Interface product, this one is part of the company's Carbon Neutral Floors program, which zeroes out the carbon emissions associated with the life cycle of its products. She believes that an interior space is integral to our well-being, and flooring, through color, scale, texture, and pattern, can enhance that well-being of those who use it. She's known for showing up in 4-inch heels and then kicking them off to get to work. Cozy.
She's also known to her team as the Fun Boss. Who doesn't love that? She now lives between bucolic Serenbe, Georgia, and urban NYC with her hubby, architect Sandy, and their daughter, Anna. Our VP of Global Design and very hip manufacturer leader is Carrie Pay of Interface. Hooray, Carrie, you're hip. Okay, next, hip for greater good. They say a hazard of specifying flooring is always looking down, but we're always looking up to this gal who lives by the phrase greater good. She was raised with volunteering as part of a family life in the small town of Astoria, Oregon. All the family took part, as do her kids now. She's territory account manager for Patcraft, but the breadth of her volunteer work is far-reaching, from teaching to fundraising to hands-on philanthropic efforts. For the past 15 years, she has volunteered with Food for Kids, today leading its public relations. She's done jail ministry and fundraised for hospice, and established the Madison, Wisconsin branch of the nonprofit Soul Hope, which sends shoemaking materials and health kits to Uganda. Wow. Her colleagues say she works with that same passion to create connections at Patcraft. And to her surprise, Patcraft believes that what she's doing is for the greater good. Instead of separating her personal from professional life, Patcraft offered their complete support with marketing materials, time off to volunteer, and 100% emotional fortitude. We love that. When she's not giving to the world, she's taking in the world through travel with her husband, Eric. She's even got a green thumb for peonies. She's proved that interior design and volunteering can be a wonderful way to serve the greater good together. Our do-gooding, and shouldn't we all be like this hipster for the greater good? Hip hip hooray for Joni Jurgens. Hip hip hooray! Hip hip hooray! Are you commenting on Facebook? You better be. Next we have Rising Star. Now, this may be a young company, only 3 years old, but the co-founder has 20 years in the workplace furniture biz experience. Around the office, he's known for his camper shoes, all day, every day, and especially the radiant blue ones. Love them. He's also known for drawing on whiteboards, his best way to convey new ideas while talking through them. The end result is high function and high fun furniture. It's all centered around adaptable workspaces that give users privacy on demand. Besides his campers, he gets inspiration from reading anything on business, and when he's in a creative rut, he turns to magazines. I love that one. He also knows how important it is to learn from a mentor. His was Bill Fogler, professionally known as Dr. Design from Pratt. He designs for work, but he also believes in play. His latest pastime is photography, the drone kind, that is. Cool, right? And let's not forget his video game obsession. This camper-wearing, video game-playing manufacturer rising star is Brian Wilson of Pear. Next is Hip Marketer. This hip marketer is an acclaimed graphic designer and has spent his career championing the biggest manufacturers in our industry. What you don't know is he also champions his town, changing the world through public service. Because he's the mayor of Canton, Georgia, that is. And get this, he's the first openly gay mayor in the region. I mean, hip hip hooray. He began his career at Shaw in 1984 as a copywriter and has been running his own successful branding and marketing company, Grant Design Collaborative, for over 3 decades.
His work includes brand strategy, advertising, marketing, and product design with a stellar client roster that includes Mohawk Group, Geiger International, Steelcase, C.F. Stinson, and many others. And he loves to recreate or redesign to have a positive impact. Oh, let's not forget showroom design like this one for set wall covering that won him an IIDA award. He's also a former president of the American Institute of Graphic Arts. Here's a pic of his pal, the late great devilish Massimo Vignelli. His creativity knows no bounds. Hundreds of red roses become a living wall for Adobe's launch of Creative Suite. But he also likes to get creative in the kitchen. Like his design, his Southern cooking has won awards too. Just look at his blue ribbon green tomato pie, inspired by his grandmother and great aunts. Love that. Bill Grant, mayor, hip. Bill Grant, designer, hip. And our hip marketer, manufacturer, hip hip hooray, the one and only Bill Grant. Hooray, sending you hugs, Bill. Okay, next and last is our hip seller. This hipster seller actually started out as an architect working for the acclaimed Foster & Partners, both in London and then New York. Look at him there with Sir Norman Foster. Then he crossed over to sales with Knoll and M2L before heading to Technion's Studio TK, and it's been a love affair ever since. A self-proclaimed furniture nerd, he is a true design junkie who enjoys long, tedious renovation projects, like me. And some light hoarding with his husband Chase and their 10-year-old pug Eunice, who seems like very unimpressed, but jumps at the chance to help him on the digital front. He's a giver too, and proudly serves on the National Board of Trustees for DIFA. He does all this because he believes in people. His selling philosophy, people buy from people. He becomes good friends with all his clients. In fact, everyone loves him. He always goes to bat for them and has their back. The secret to his success, you gotta love what you do. And he loves Studio TK. He does play favorites though. At work, it's the F500 series. And after work, it's karaoke. DM him, he'll send you the playlist because he's that kind of guy. This fun-loving, karaoke-singing VP of Sales hipster is our very own Eric Stroud. Hip hip hooray! Hip hip hooray! Oh my God, we're done. Oh my God, I miss you all so much. Sending you big hugs, big love. Enjoy all of those awards, and a big thank you to our sponsors, Formica, Interface Material Bank, and thank you to our select partners. And thank you all for being such a supportive and loving community. You make me so proud. For all of you out there, hip hip hooray, and go forth and design.